Leinster's run of victories continues as they brush aside Cardiff for the RDS. My name's Mark, let's talk rugby. Harry Byrne gets a start at 10 in this one with his brother Ross and Johnny Sexton called up to the Ireland Six Nations squad. Cardiff looking solid in defence in the opening few minutes. This epitomised by a big hit from Lilo on Byrne, but Leinster are dominating possession and territory as they so often do. Byrne puts in a nice bouncing kick into the corner. Myhill's throw from the line out isn't straight, so Leinster get a scrum 5 minutes out. Decent attacking position from them. Deegan drives off the back of the scrum. He goes close, just halted on the line, but we get a penalty to Leinster. McKee taps and goes. Deegan then comes on a nice line against the grain, and he can't be stopped this time. He goes over to score the first try. Conversion's missed, but we're 5-0 to Leinster. Cardiff then get their own scrum in a decent attacking position. Williams pops a kick over the defence, and Lane almost gathers it to score. It's one of these ones where the bounce kind of beats him, where it bounced up and he tried to trap it between his hand and his leg, but it was just slightly behind him. But they still have a decent position from a line out. They go to the maul. Leinster halt that, so they decide to spread it. But then Penny manages to get over the ball, win a penalty for Leinster, and they're able to clear. And it's kind of shows the difference between the two sides. Like Leinster got in position to score, and they did. Cardiff had a decent position and just allowed Leinster off the hook there. Leinster then, you can see that they upped the ruck speed and the pace. Cardiff, though, were still looking good in defence. They're being aggressive, and Leinster have to resort to kicking over the top of them to try and make some ground. Evans then puts in an attempted crossfield kick, but it doesn't quite work out. We get a scrum to Leinster there. The scrums are pretty even in the first half, most of the way up until Leinster make changes in the second half. But you can see that Cardiff, they're trying things, they're just not quite coming off for them. Then we have hooker John McKee. He steps Ben Thomas on the right wing, makes some decent ground, and then Leinster switch the ball to the left wing, and Deegan and Ruddock both make ground there as well. They get deep into the 22. They win themselves a penalty, and it's another tap from the penalty. They put the ball through the hands, and McGrath goes over this time. Byrne converts, and we're at 12-0. And again, it's just that ruthlessness of Leinster. When they get a chance, they're scoring, whereas Cardiff, you feel like they're going to need multiple chances before they manage to score themselves. Just then, when we're getting ready for the restart, Policeland is replaced by Matthew Morgan. He's off because of a hamstring injury. Cardiff, after the restart, they win a penalty for holding on. Tamani gets over the ball. Evan puts it deep into the 22. They maul to within about 5 metres, but then it splinters and Leinster are able to drive them into touch. Leinster then clear from the line out. Cardiff, they try to attack again, but it kind of looks like they're forcing it a little bit, and because of that, they're making mistakes. Players are overrunning lines, they're knocking on, that kind of thing. Things not quite clicking for them. Morgan then spills a high ball, and that's collected by Byrne, who puts a lovely kick in deep into the 22. And Cardiff, from there, they're kind of finding it difficult to clear the lines. Leinster managed to turn the ball over. Deegan again makes good ground with a carry. McGrath spots a gap and he snipes through to score his second of the evening. And Cardiff that time, they're a little bit asleep on defence. Like he basically just picked it from the base of the ruck and ran between the ruck and the nearest Cardiff defender and was just over. They weren't really, watching the pillar really wasn't watching him. This one's converted. We're at 19-0. Already you're feeling like, well, this game is over. Like Cardiff, they're probably not going to come back. They do, though, get a decent attacking position. McGrath, he's kicked out on the full, and we come back. So they have a decent line-out position, but they get the timing wrong on the line-out. Leinster are able to steal, then they win a penalty, and they're clear. And again, it's the same kind of thing where you think that Cardiff are maybe going to respond, at least keep themselves somewhat in touch. But every time they're getting a chance, they're just not quite getting things right, making silly errors, and it's kind of the difference between the teams. Really, is just how clinical Leinster are being. Like, Leinster are making mistakes, but it's the fact that how they recover from the mistakes, and then how the fact that they're not always making the mistakes every time that they get in position, and especially when they get into that red zone, the scoring zone. You can see that everybody's switched on, and they're reducing those errors, and they're getting their scores. Leinster then, they're coming looking for the bonus point try before half time, but Cardiff do well to disrupt the 5-metre driving maul. They force a knock on. Half time is 19-0. Leinster have been on top in the first half, and it's a kind of a lot. If you watch Leinster all through the season, you would say in terms of like general play, there isn't that much between the teams, but Leinster just have that ability, as I said, that when they're in the red zone, they just reduce the errors, and more or less, not every time, but a higher percentage than any other team, they're able to come back with the score. Into the second half, then we have Brownlee, nice offload to his centre partner Turner. He breaks through the middle of the Cardiff defence. He holds off a couple of tacklers, and keeps going right to the edge of the 22. Tamani then, he gets pinged for in at the side. Leinster kick the penalty up the line. Then Leinster, they go through the phases. They're getting their big men running at Cardiff defenders. They manage to suck them in. Turnbull then almost turns the ball over, but he knocks it on for Cardiff. So Leinster then attack off the back of the scrum, and Harries gets himself a yellow card for deliberate knock on. It wasn't a penalty try because there was cover behind him, but he's got 10 minutes in the bin. Leinster then pile under pressure again. They kick into the corner. Cardiff do well to halt them all, but Leinster break off and they go close, get really close to the line, and then Deeney's able to power over with a couple of buddies behind him for the bonus point try. This one was converted by Byrne, and we're at 26-0. We then have Deegan makes decent ground off the back of a scrum. Tamani gets pinged again at the ruck. Penalty gets Leinster in a good position. We have carries from the likes of Deegan and Penny pulling in the defence. The ball goes out to O'Reilly, nice long pass, and he runs it in the corner. Conversion's missed, but it's 31-0, and the game is then buried. At this stage, Leinster decide to run the changes. They're bringing on tons of young guys for debuts, and this is the kind of thing. This is what they do every year, like to build for the future. Like they've got the likes of the likes of Ruddock, Deegan, Penny, McGrath, even Harry Byrne in that team already, and then they put young lads in with them, and those young lads then gain the experience this year, and then they're the players then next year who are playing when the rest are away at the Six Nations, and then they bring in young lads behind them again, And they're just able to do that, to bring these guys in all the time, and they all just are able to slot into the team. And it's one of the big differences, I think, between Leinster and almost any other rugby team on the planet, let alone in the URC. But Cardiff at this stage, so they do have a good period of possession. We have a nice line from Harries. He's back on the field at this stage. He gets them into the 22. They go through the phases. They get to within 5 meters of the line. The Leinster defence manages to drive them back out of the 22. But then we have a good carry from both of them. Leads to advantage for Leinster offside. They kick that one to the corner. They go through the phases again. But then we have a big hit on both of them from Will Connors, who's come off the bench. And that forces a knock on, and Leinster are able to clear. But Cardiff, they're still applying pressure. You can see that the intensity has dropped a little bit from Leinster. Cardiff are getting more possession and more territory. Both of them managed to go close off the back of a maul before Thornton goes over to score their first try of the game. That's converted by Evans in their 31-7. We then have a couple of scrum penalties to Cardiff. That allows them to get back into the Leinster 22. Nice set move from them at the line out. They kind of set up the maul, and just as it's setting up, Botham peels off the back and goes around the short side. Gets to within 5 meters. They go for one-out carriers from there, get close to the line again. They win a penalty under the post. They decide to go for the scrum. We have a number of scrum resets at this stage. Then McCarthy on at scrum half for Leinster forces a knock-on from Bevan as he lifts the ball out of the scrum. Cardiff, though, they claim a high clearing kick, and they come back again deep into the 22. They win a penalty, take a quick tap from that, and then Dacey goes over under the post. That one is converted for 31-14. Then Leinster come back, work their way upfield after the restart. Clock is in the red. Cardiff have the ball, but there's a loose pass that kind of bounces along the ground, and Turner is able to pick that one up, and he goes over for Leinster's final try, the final try of the game as well. That's converted. Final score is 38-14 to Leinster. Really good performance from the players who, I wouldn't say like some of them are obviously fringe players, but the likes of Ruddock, Maloney, Penny, and those kind of guys, they're the guys that you will see in the URC kind of week in, week out for Leinster, because the Irish players, like the national players, they're being rested or rotated and stuff like that. So these players are playing kind of week in, week out, and then they have all these other young lads coming in beside people who have upwards of 100 caps for Leinster. So it's not like you're just throwing out a full squad of green players in there. And it's something that they do really well. Like the Leinster had 20 players called up for the Ireland Six Nations squad. But they're so good at bringing these young players through, and not just bringing them through and giving them a game and then you don't see them for ages. These guys come in, they hit the ground running, and then some of them then, when injuries happen, will be ready just to slot back into that team seamlessly. Whereas for Cardiff, like, they got a real up close look at the gulf between Leinster and the rest of the URC, I feel.